You thought she was untouchable because she's married. You thought she was wise because she has kids. You thought she'd never betray you because she smiled at you, politely, calmly, almost timidly, as if decency had vaccinated her against chaos. Fatal mistake. The reality is, married women aren't the fortresses you imagine. More often than not, they are the easiest prey, not out of weakness, but because inside something's gone dark. After surviving for so long in their own home. Invisible, burned out, suffocated by a colorless routine. They wander the halls of a life that doesn't even see them anymore. And it's when hope dies in silence that danger really starts. A cold, methodical, unstoppable danger. Welcome to the marital matrix, the crack in the system, the thing we prefer to ignore because it calls everything into question. Why do they fall? Why do you, the perfect stranger, a passing ghost, become a detonator? You think it's just luck. You think it's chemistry. You think you're in control. You're not in control. You're walking barefoot through a room littered with mines. Listen closely, because nobody is going to tell you what I'm about to say. Not the media, not the books, not your therapist. What you're about to get isn't advice, it's knockout punches. There are 5 raw truths, 5 disturbing, relentless, stoic reasons why a married woman might cross the line. If you still believe in the myth of automatic loyalty, it just means you've never looked past those polite smiles. So subscribe now. Here we say what others don't even dare think. No filter, no lies, just the truth. Raw, cold, and sharp as a blade. Let's begin. Everything starts with routine. You need to understand one crucial thing. Desire never comes from what's obvious. It grows in absence, anticipation, and otherness. Eroticism isn't born from always there tenderness. It's that rush of maybe. But marriage, as it's practiced today, dries all that up. A husband, over time, becomes an emotional piece of furniture, useful, stable, but invisible. He is no longer an unpredictable volcano, not the source of tension. He's just the anchor, the lighthouse in the storm. And that anchor becomes the very cage where unpredictability dies. Too much familiarity kills the flame. She knows what time he'll get home. She can predict what he'll say. She anticipates the robotic tenderness, the procedural caresses, the repeated gestures. Everything scripted, even the boredom in their silences. Each smile is like office paperwork, every kiss a form completed in a rush. Picture her in an immaculate kitchen, making dinner while the kids scream in the living room, and her husband glued to his phone, punctuating the scene with a bored without ever really looking at her. It seems harmless, but over time, that kind of life turns you into a ghost. At that very moment, you, the outsider, become the glitch in the matrix, the welcome error in the system, the crack she never expected. You don't need to be an Adonis, just a spark of surprise, a bit of dissonance in her endless routine. A different phrase, a gaze that lingers just a bit too long. You're not special, you're simply not the same. And that's more than enough to rekindle an ember where everything seemed cold. Enough to make her body betray her role, to make her heartbeat remind her she's alive. Meanwhile, the husband slowly slips from hero to manager. He was the man, now he's a co-worker. He was desire, now he's duty. He was the promise, now he's just maintenance. It's not that she doesn't love him, it's simply that the man she loved is gone, replaced by a shell that's all have to with zero flavor. The kids, the mortgage, the habits, these aren't shields, they're chains. It's not love that keeps her, it's logistics. The truth, in her mind, she's often already gone. And that means you're not dealing with someone fragile, but a survivor of the void, someone suffocating in the daily gray. In that vacuum, any man with a little electricity becomes her dealer of sensation. The virtuous man doesn't trust what's stable, but what's real. And the truth is, marriage immunizes no one against boredom. But there's something even worse than routine. A quiet hunger to be seen, to be wanted, to exist. They sold you the idea that a settled-down woman was off the market, made immune by the wedding ring, a magic anti-collision amulet. But self-esteem isn't locked in by some contract. It needs constant feeding, constant testing, constant renewal in someone else's eyes. The only constant in the human heart is its need for validation, as Epictetus would say today. Now, the married woman lives in a hall of broken mirrors. Instagram, WhatsApp, TikTok. Every like is a drip of validation. Every interaction a microdose. And in real life, every look, every slightly ambiguous smile, every half compliment stolen from the mundane reminds her she's alive. Not just as a mother or wife, but as a woman, a being of desire. You think an attentive, faithful, caring husband meets that need? Huge mistake. Predictability turns even kindness into background noise. Compliments become mechanical. Gestures lose their meaning because they're part of the same old routine. She doesn't even hear his "you're beautiful" anymore. She wants something new, something unexpected. This is where you come in. A controversial word, a lingering look, a teasing remark, and her whole mind explodes. She feels again what her mirror has denied her too long, the sense of being special. She doesn't necessarily want to sleep with you. Sometimes she just wants the rush, the high your wanting gives her. She wants to test her power, to see if she can still bend the universe. If you're sufficiently distant, if you set up obstacles, she'll try to overcome them just to confirm she can still reach her wild side. And if she goes all the way, maybe it's not even about you, it's about her doubts. She doesn't want your love. She wants your response, your fleeting devotion, just some proof for her ego. The naive guy thinks it's the beginning of something. He falls for her, builds castles in the sand. But he was only a reflection of her need for validation, an accessory never essential. While you cry over her absence, she's making pancakes on Sunday, satisfied in her partner's kitchen. The Stoic isn't here to feed another's ego, but to protect his own peace. Watch, and don't let yourself become someone's mental accessory. But here's something even trickier, her skill at playing a double game. There are two kinds of traitors, the clumsy kind who gets caught with the first reckless text, and the strategist, an artist of perfect cover-ups. Unfaithful wives are seasoned veterans of interior theater. They don't crack out of weakness, but because they've learned to control all the parameters. Masters of illusion, they manage a double life, double phones, a double calendar. Their alibis are razor sharp. When she texts thinking of you during a meeting, it's not some slip, it's a test. She reads your reactions, gauges your attachment, measures your boldness. Every silence, every fake fight, every "I feel guilty" is a move in a game of chess. Emotional intelligence is her biggest weapon. She adapts, reads the cracks, knows when to push or pull back. You think she's in danger, you naive fool? No, you're just playing junior secret agent while she runs the show. She manipulates her image, conversations, the proof. Sometimes, just when you think she's hooked, she vanishes, ghosting you without a word, popping back up 3 weeks later like nothing happened. You hurt, question, second guess. Meanwhile, to her, you were just another episode in a series she's been writing for years. Duplicity isn't a flaw. It's a survival strategy for those forced to be perfect, but never honest. The Stoic doesn't trust sweet words. He reads gestures, contradictions, cracks in the mask. Here's the real lesson. When she says, "I can't do this, we have to stop," it's not morality pulling her back. It's simply that the game is over. She's won. She can close the chapter with no damage, except maybe for you, left amazed, hurt, bewildered. Never be just an instrument for someone else's inner chaos, even if they beg you with teary eyes. Another myth falls here, that married women never take the risk because they have too much to lose. People imagine some sacred prudence and unbreakable moral sense. Big mistake. Many forget what sparkles on the outside never matches what silently dies within. Most married women who cheat have lived emotionally divorced for years before making the leap. Conversation's dead. Affection is mechanical. Intimacy is transactional. There's nothing left to lose. Everything's already decomposed. All that's left is the house, logistics, the social front. But the soul is empty. When you fear no loss, you're ready for anything. What men judge is what shines. What the wise see is what's crumbling quietly. A woman dead inside is no longer afraid of crossing lines. It's not scandal that scares her. It's the silence of emptiness. When she finally crosses the line, theoretically, she could lose it all. But in her mind, she already has. That's why she dares. The most paradoxical part? This family stage where everyone holds their pose for the world, while underneath, boredom, lovelessness, and drained desire erode the scenery. Nobody moves. The children are there. The whole family, everyone posts their perfectly arranged family photos. And yet, behind those walls, it's silent misery. It's not morality that breaks. It's emotional exhaustion that finally takes over. Giving with nothing back. Loving without being loved. Talking with no one listening. Those constant tiny abandonments cause more ruins than any major scandal. So when you arrive, you're not a threat. You're a break. A breath, a promise of sensation in an emotional desert. The more we've sacrificed with no thanks, the more willing we are to burn the house down, not out of cruelty, but to reclaim a sense of justice inside. You're not a potential new lover. You're an emergency exit from her daily cage. But don't get it twisted. The real nature of modern cheating has less to do with love, escape, or romance. Most of the time, it's all about the raw hunt for pleasure with no strings, no tomorrows. Plenty of married women don't want anything but a real, messy orgasm, a moment that rips them out of the routine with no payback and no promises, just a quick jolt of life in a routine so tight it's choking. Social hypocrisy wants us to believe lust is for the singles, and married women can't have dirty desires. But the truth is, 1,000 shades of frustration grow from sterilized comfort. The fantasy of breaking the rules isn't just for teenagers. Often, a married woman is a caged animal just begging for an hour of freedom. You're not the soulmate. You're the chaos needed to keep her balance from snapping. She wants to split pleasure from emotion, a secret revenge on centuries of moral preaching. It's not the body's loyalty that matters. It's being loyal to that voice inside, screaming to be heard without consequences. She doesn't need to blow it all up or even love you to open up. Just a moment, a release, a parenthesis. It's not love that makes women cheat, but the urge to find themselves again in the physical shock of the forbidden. So she keeps you in a compartment. You're the secret room in her mental palace. You only exist in the dark, in random hotel rooms at odd hours, over 2 cheap glasses of wine in an Airbnb bedroom. She wants to come like a lover and go home like a wife, living a double life without guilt or debt. And you, lost in her arms, dream she'll leave everything to be with you, the movie romance. The reality? Maybe she comes back, maybe not. Maybe she ghosts you, blocks you, moves on, then randomly texts you a month later like nothing happened, just to see if you're still there. Her backup outlet for excitement. It isn't you she wants. It isn't even her husband she's running from. She just wants to escape herself, her role as dutiful wife, perfect mom, grown-up woman. You're just a decompression chamber, a little crack in time where she can be someone in somebody else's gaze. The Stoic takes nothing personally. He lets others' needs pass like a storm with respect, but without getting swept up. That's your last lesson. Know your place in her head, You were just a hot coal to reignite the flame, not the torch to burn down her world. In the end, nothing is more dangerous than a woman who no longer believes in tomorrow. A woman who no longer thrills at what she owns, who no longer dreams, who no longer prays, who no longer hopes. Because when hope dies, everything becomes possible. Loyalty dissolves, morality becomes optional, and chaos becomes seductive. You, hero for a night, dealer of emotions, validation valet. You'll think you're the exception, the savior, the fresh start. But in reality, you'll have only been an instrument in her quest to reclaim herself, an orgasm of pride, a shatterable mirror, just a parenthesis between two marital silences. And when it's all over, when she goes back to her life, her role, her front, all you'll have left is the bitterness of never having owned a thing. And maybe, if you're truly wise, the clarity never again to play firefighter on the ruins of a theater already burned. If you want more truths as sharp as this, subscribe now. Here, we don't sugarcoat. We don't sell dreams. We torch them so you finally wake up. Like, comment, and share this video with those still living in the illusion. And remember, it's not the ring on her finger that makes her faithful. It's the emptiness inside her that decides when she stops being so. End of transmission.